Welcome back to DXB Today, where I am joined by a phenomenal performer, someone who is doing something quite unique in the UAE, which is country singing. I'm joined by Sheridan Brass. How are you, Sheridan?
I'm well, Nimi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I say unique because country singing really is unique to hear out and about in the UAE. Tell me why country singing?
Well, firstly, it speaks to my heart. It's something that I grew up with, something that I relate with, and I think it's the simplicity of it that gets me every time. And I think Dubai could use some of it.
It could. I mean, what's the reaction been so far to you spreading country music?
Well, I've not been here for very long. I just moved here recently, and it's quite. I'm quite surprised by the way it's being accepted. A lot of people are drawn to it, but they don't know they're drawn to it. So when they hear it, they react in ways that they've never reacted before.
Yeah.
And it's heartwarming, and it's lovely to think that there is scope for this genre, and there is scope for me to do what I love to do right here in Dubai.
Tell me more specifically about your music, because you know I feel like the last few years there's been a lot of remixes on country music. Is that what you're doing, or are you doing very much the original art?
Well, I love country music. I love the fact that it's evolving and all of that, but unfortunately, I do not want to be part of diluting the genre.
Yeah.
So I like to stick to its roots. But having said that, there is room for improvement and for adding on newer sounds and newer instruments and all of that. But I still, in the core of things, I believe in the simplicity, like I said, and I want to stick to what's real and the basics of country music.
I love that. So where can people see you perform? Where can they follow you? Where can they hear your music? I know you've got an EP coming out next year.
Yeah, so I'm working on an original EP, which I hope to put out next year, early next year. For now, I'm doing gigs between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, so I'm driving down back and forth almost every other day. And it's been fun. So I perform at Pizza Express, Jazz Pizza Express, JLT on Monday nights. I do a gig at Al Bustan Novotel in Abu Dhabi on Friday nights, and that's a duo with Timothy, and we're called the Good Old Boys. And then Saturday and Sunday for now, I'm doing the busking thing, which is happening by Music at the Boardwalk, which is an initiative by the Abu Dhabi government to have music in the whole ecospace of things. So I'm just on the streets in Abu Dhabi at different venues on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's amazing.
I love that. Well, look, best of luck with your EP. I'm going to let you get ready for your performance. I'm very excited for this. But for now, we speak to a young animator who is using visual storytelling to get across her message when it comes to climate action.
I'm so excited to be joined here in the studio by a young, incredibly creative woman who uses her artistic talent to create comics that make the climate crisis more accessible. Chianwu, did I say that right?
You did.
I hope so. Yay! The weird and the wild. How did it all start? What came first, the art or the climate activism?
So my name is Chian. I'm based in Singapore. I actually did environmental studies for my undergraduate studies. And halfway through university, I realized that a lot of my friends who were not in environmental studies were starting to ask me about things like, where do you find this information about sustainability? And at the same time, I was meeting a lot of very cool people in my course who were researching all sorts of things from frogs to coral reefs that was, this content was not found on the mainstream. And I thought, why not I try to bridge that gap? And I decided to explore Instagram, where I started a Weird and Wild, and I got my Apple Pencil at that time and started to draw. So I'm a self-taught illustrator, and I decided that maybe I can combine the arts and the sciences to make climate change a little bit less scary for the common person and also more exciting on social media.
And also because it's more accessible to a younger generation, right? Have you
hope
seen
so.
that it communicates, messages more effectively than other media?
I think so, because sustainability and climate change is always very scary when you read that on the news. And sometimes when you see headlines, you might not necessarily understand what's going on. So I want to be that person to say, hey, I'm here to figure it out with you, and in a more informal way that kind of gets people's attention. And the interesting bit is whenever I draw comics, people think that it's for a young youth or for children, when actually my biggest demographic are those between 24 to 35 and even up to 40. So to me, comic as a medium is really something that people just seem to gravitate towards, and hopefully when people feel like it's for a younger audience, they feel less, they feel more like, okay, I can understand this.
And it doesn't feel as overwhelming and daunting.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, tell us about some of the work that you're doing here at COP28, but also you're representing the Singaporean Pavilion, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm very lucky to be here with the Singapore delegation. We have the Singapore Pavilion right here at Zone B6, Building 76. There's a lot of amazing programming, and I'm part of the youths who are here. My role is to use social media to tell people back home what's happening at the Singapore Pavilion, and also just trying to demystify a lot of what COP28 is about, because there's just so many acronyms like UNFCCC, COP itself, IPCC. All these things are tricky if you're not someone who's in this space. So I want to blend that, my technical understanding with science, to be like, hey, this is what it's all about. This is what's happening on the ground. So you kind of connect to it a lot more back home than just reading what's on the news.
So you've obviously been recognized by the BBC, and most recently I saw that you've been selected, congratulations, by the National Geographic as a young explorer. Tell me a little bit about that and how these collaborations help you further your message.
I think coming from Southeast Asia, being able to talk about science, especially on what's impacting our region, is really exciting. I've been able to meet all sorts of people as part of the Young Explorer program, and I just want to explore science communications and help people see that as an investable solution.
Now, one thing I noticed about your platform that I was really impressed by is how you help people take their first eco steps, let's say. And again, all about it making it more accessible and less daunting. What are some of the tips or advice that you can give people who are looking to be a little more proactive when it comes to leading a more, eco-responsible life?
I think my content really just wants people to understand the why, because you can tell people what to do, but if they don't understand the why, they will give up very quickly. And ultimately, I think it's about consuming all this content, and once you know what tweaks you want to make, that becomes a lot easier, because I can tell you to do one thing, but if it doesn't apply to you, you will never want to do it again.
Well put. So what's next for the Weird and the Wild before we let you go?
I really hope to grow the Weird and Wild as a science communications platform, not just on social media, but also writing, storytelling, other forms. I just want people to know that visual storytelling can be a big part of the climate solution, and that more people will invest in content creators.
Well, you are so talented. I know this is just the beginning for you. So thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of COP28.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we have had so much happening on the show today. In case you missed anything, you could watch it all over again, and all our other episodes on our YouTube page. Just look for Dubai One TV. But if you're into short form content a bit more, we're also on Instagram. So look for Dubai One TV on Instagram. And if you want to share anything, make sure you tag us. Use that hashtag DXB Today.
You're right, it has been a wonderful show. I'd like to thank all of our guests. Thank you too. And that's all from us today. But make sure and join us again next week for another week and our last week before we go off on our holidays.
However, we are going to be kicking off Monday with a roundup of all the best things at COP28. So you don't want to miss that one.
Now, as promised, it's time for our performance of the evening. This is the sensational Sheridan.